started off by purchasing a random doll I found at the Salvation Army. I removed all of her factory paint using 100% acetone, and also used clippers and pliers to remove the hair. And I used a fine grit sandpaper pad to sand down her molded on panties and the rest of her body, just to get a nice clean smooth surface. I also did use soap and water to wash her down. I believe this doll is from the Disney Fairies Sleepover collection, which was like back in 2010, so she's been around for a minute. This was her original packaging. Of course, I didn't find her like this, but anyways, we'll be taking this and making it into Faye Valentine from Cowboy Bebop. So I'm using pre-made clothes I got from AliExpress, and I'm going to customize them to match Faye's outfit. I've selected the best pieces I could find that were suitable. This is the overall prototype outfit I have ready for her. It might not be entirely accurate visually, but it will be close enough for her to match, I don't know, it's really giving her skin on Fortnite, you know what I mean? So the head that came with the doll was a little, like, too whimsical for this project. Faye's got a pretty sultry look to her. I went ahead and switched it out with another Barbie that I had purchased on Amazon for $6 or $7 a while ago. It was very affordable, I will say that. It's super cute, but I found it's a little too playful for Faye's face. Plus, it's a little still too big for the body, so I went ahead and shrunk her head by soaking it in 100% acetone for 2 hours. That's what you're seeing here, her head in a jar, soaking in acetone with tinfoil. It did swell up to a decent size. I think it was even bigger than the Monster High doll head. But letting it dry for 24 hours, the head did shrink down to a more suitable size. Yeah, as you can see now, it's smaller than the original head that came with the doll. So, yeah. For her hair, I used whatever yarn I had laying around. I have had this yarn for a real long time now, and I just decided it was time to really put it to use. Using a dark purple and a pet de-shedding tool, I smoothed out the yarn and created hair wefts for her wig, also using Mod Podge to glue the tips of the wefts down on a sheet of plastic. So this was my first time doing this. I have never done this before, but you know, this was kind of looking a little sus. These wefts were just not coming out the way I wanted it. But you know what? I just trusted the process and everything turned out to be fine. Okay, so for the wig cap, I started by using plastic to wrap around her head. I used the thinnest old t-shirt I can find and Mod Podge. I put a few coats of Mod Podge on it and then let it dry, but unfortunately, the fabric was still too thick, and it was something that I did not realize until much later, when the wig was just about finished. Thankfully, I did a bit of detail work using leftover yarn clippings from the brush, the de-shedding brush that I had, and I fixed the hairline to make it as clean as possible. I definitely did cut it down to the size that I wanted it to, and I wasn't mad about it, honestly. I needed her skin tone to be far more paler, so I went ahead and used cadmium red, yellow, and white to create a peachy-like skin tone, and then coated her with thin layers of paint. Upon that, I sealed it all with Mr. Super Clear off camera in a safe ventilated area, of course. I did the same with the head. So next are her shoes. I used a pair from an assortment bag of doll shoes I got from Amazon, and then painted about 3 coats of white paint on each shoe, then sealing it with Liquitex gloss varnish to give it a nice shiny finish, like vinyl boots. For her her shorts, I'll first be removing the stitched on bow and the ribbon around the legs. And to paint the shorts, I'll be using cadmium yellow, a small bit of this metallic copper to give it that subtle shine, and to get the color to stick perfectly to the clothing, I'll be using Mod Podge and conditioner. I use equal parts of each and then mix well with a spatula. I'll be using Mod Podge and conditioner on the shirt and cardigan as well. So I was really happy with the way the paint came out on the clothing. It really gave it a faux leathery smooth type of feel, which kind of looks like the quality of Faye's outfit anyways. So it just really worked out well on the shirt and shorts. If you can't use conditioner, fabric softener is also an option. I have so much conditioner to begin with just from being a cosmetologist, so I figured I'd rather use that than my fabric softener since I have so much of it, and fabric softener it's pricey, you know? I forgot to mention off camera, I did remove the Velcro from the doll's shirt, the Velcro that was stitched on. I removed that before painting. And then I used multiple pieces of ribbon that I had painted black to add the black hem on her shirt. I also used the same ribbon to create her suspenders. For her socks, I found this really nice soft pink silky bag I had just kind of laying around. I went into this with little to no experience in sewing, so I did what I could to make measurements for her legs, and I cut the fabric out. I used liquid stitch to create the hem of the sock and used my dotting tool to apply pressure to the hem. And now you see my very first crappy stitch I have ever made. Congrats! Okay, so her face up was not solid. First I ran into several issues recording, so I had to rely on taking pictures of the step-by-step process. With it being my first face up, I had issues with layering, I will not lie. I am very new to this, so I far from perfect. Starting with the fact that I just could not get any of my pastels and watercolor pencils to stick very well. So I switched to acrylic paint, which brought in itself a whole new world of suffering. In the end, I wanted to really stick with her subtle anime feminine-like features. The red lipstick, the fair complexion, and her cat eyeliner. And her dark green eyes, of course, but I regret not giving the pastels and pencils more of a chance, like adding a bit more blush and contour to give her depth to her face. A little bit, disappointed about that, but I was also struggling with limited color. My watercolor pencils were strongly lacking in color variety, so I did have to rely a lot on paint. And as you can see, the paint came out super shaky and textured. It's not smooth. It's not the way I want it to be. But even still, I did not give up. I finished her face using acrylic paint on her hairline, her eyes, and lips. And then I used a bit of Liquitex gloss varnish on the lips and eyes. I did, of course, use Mr. Super Clear to seal in every layer I felt needed. I've been informed by so many amazing doll creators on YouTube that Mr. Super Clear is like the equivalent of saving your progress on Photoshop. So, like I said, with this being my very first face up, I have learned a whole lot. I guess I'm not super mad. I am happy with it being finished. It was a struggle. Definitely gonna use a step-by-step method next time, and it will be so much better. I did use the watercolor pencils and pastels more on her body to accentuate certain curves. Again, not very good, but my next attempt will definitely be so much better. So now she's basically ready for assembly. Putting on all her clothes, I then used glue to adhere the suspenders onto her outfit, the back included. Off camera, I put a good amount of tacky glue inside of her wig, and of course I pressed it on her head. So I cannot let this doll go unaccessorized. I don't think I'm gonna let any of them go unaccessorized from here on. So I wanted to give her a cute little playing card because she is, of course, a blackjack dealer. And because her last name is Valentine, I figured an Ace of Hearts card would be best. I did this just by using polymer clay, paint, and gloss varnish to give it a nice shine. Adding final details to her, she's all done.